Don't dismiss the Xiaopeng G6 as just another Chinese EV. This electric mid-size crossover is one of the most sophisticated and best value options in the Tesla Model Y segment, and an outstanding first effort in a class where some rivals are struggling to hit the sweet spot. In short, it's certainly worth a look.
The Xpeng G6 is a mid-sized coupe SUV which sets its sights on the Tesla Model Y crowd. Let's take a closer look. Like us, you're probably realizing that some emerging Chinese EV auto brands are more serious contenders than others. Spelt Xpeng but pronounced Xiaopeng, this is one of the more serious sort. It's not been around long. It was founded as recently as 2014 by Jia Heng and He Tao, two former senior executives of China's state-owned GAC Motor Corporation. But after just a decade of existence, this tech entrepreneur startup is already selling across half of Europe and has introduced 5 models so advanced that the Volkswagen Group has paid €500 million for a stake of just 5% in the company. The first of these models to reach the UK in early 2025 was this one, the G6. It's an electric mid-sized coupe SUV that, in the words of its maker, wants to break the mold, aimed directly at the Tesla Model Y and that car's profitable segment. But it charges faster, it gives you more standard kit, offers greater technology, and in equivalent guises, it costs less. Plus, it's sold here by an experienced dealer network run by International Motors, who import Subaru, Isuzu, and Great Wall products. It all means you need to take this G6 model seriously if you're buying or leasing in this sector, in which case you'll need this, the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. It isn't only the styling which has a Tesla look, so do the powertrains. Things kick off with a standard range rear-driven model that uses a 66 kilowatt-hour LFP battery, which energizes a 262 bhp motor with 440 newton meters of torque, and that's able to propel the car to 62 in 6.9 seconds. EV range with the standard model is 270 miles. Most are expected to want the mid-level rear-driven long-range variant that we're trying here, which gives you a larger NCM battery with 87.5 kilowatt hours, and that boosts range to 354 miles. To compensate for the extra weight, there's a rear axle motor output boosted to 290 bhp, so the 0 to 62 miles an hour sprint time of 6.7 seconds is hardly any different. At the top of the lineup is, as you'd expect, an all-wheel drive dual motor model badged all-wheel drive performance. Here, the bigger 87.5 kilowatt-hour battery powers a motor on both axles, which together generate 483 bhp with 680 newton meters of torque. That's enough to take this G6 to 62 very rapidly indeed, 4.1 seconds on the way to the 124 miles an hour top speed that all versions of this car share. EV range there is 340 miles. All G6s offer a choice of 4 driving modes. There's Eco, Standard, Sport and Individual. Eco is pretty sufficient for 90% of normal driving, and particularly given the trouble that we've had in getting anywhere near to the claimed EV range stats here, that is the setting that we would certainly advise you to default to whenever you can. Unlike with the rival Tesla Model Y, you get to select varying levels of brake regeneration, although unfortunately, as with the drive mode settings, you have to fiddle around in touchscreen menus to find those. There are 4 regeneration options: low, medium, high and X pedal, and the latter slows the car really quite dramatically when you come off throttle. The brake regeneration is quite well integrated into the friction braking system, but there are 3 brake pedal feel settings to fiddle with if you don't like that. Xiaopeng also provides a choice of 3 drive sounds. Traditional engine doesn't sound anything like a traditional engine, but it is certainly better than the otherworldly feel that you get with the other 2 options. There's space floating and time warp. And you can choose also between 3 power steering settings. The sport option is quite direct, but none of them are particularly feelsome. There is quite a firm ride despite the advanced 5-link rear suspension and the supposedly sophisticated multi-valve Sachs passive dampers. Adaptive damping isn't offered here. Despite that, and perhaps predictably, the driving dynamics aren't especially involving, although to be fair, the G6 is reasonably agile through the bends for a 2.1 ton EV crossover. That's helped by the stiff SEPA 2.0 platform. Obviously it's much more in its element to the cruise, where you appreciate the vast number of Xiaopilot 2.5 camera drive assist features and the fact that all the binging and bonging that comes with those isn't too intrusive. You'll also appreciate this car's excellent refinement, helped no doubt by the double glazed glass here. You probably won't choose a G6 just because of the way it looks, but there's nothing to repel you here either. The shape is slightly more coupe-SUV than most of its rivals, and it broadly replicates the mid-sized crossover dimensions of the Tesla Model Y, whose sales, of course, it wants to replicate. But the technology shrouded by the aluminium panels here is indeed impressive. An 800-volt electrical architecture with a silicon carbide power inverter and a full scenario Xiaopilot network of 29 cameras, radar transceivers and ultrasonic sensors, with collective output overseen by a special NVIDIA processor. Since when did family cars get this complicated? At 4.75 metres long, 1.92 metres wide and 1.65 metres tall, this car fits squarely into the mid-sized EV crossover segment. Now, Xiaopeng says the styling was influenced by the world of sci-fi fantasy, but to us, the influences seem to be far more those of segment rivals, particularly Tesla. Still, it's interesting that there are almost no bodywork creases, and it's certainly true that a lot of thought's gone in here. There are hidden door handles, there's a flat underbody and a streamlined raked back tail. All of this combines to make the G6 one of the most aerodynamic cars in its class, with a drag coefficient of just 0.248 CD. In this Xiaopeng branded side strip that flows back from the front wing, you can see one of the many Xiaopilot cameras we mentioned earlier on. The brand's rather contradictory sounding emotional robot face design language has created this nose section, which is mainly notable for this black X-branded strip at the leading edge of this smooth bonnet, which incorporates the narrow daytime running lights. The headlamps sit in these large corner cutouts here, and there's a black latticed panel beneath the number plate, which conceals active flaps that shut at speed. The swept back tailgate hides a rear wiper, which you'll be thankful for when you're setting off on leafy autumn days. The tail treatment's nicely done, with a subtle roof spoiler, slim, almost full width LED tail lamps and spaced out Xiaopeng lettering on the tailgate, which sits above a black bumper with a contrast coloured inset panel. Perhaps more interest though is what you can't see. There's an aluminium body and plenty more of that metal in the SEPA 2.0 platform, which you might hope would make this one of the lighter mid-sized EVs. Sadly not. This long-range model tips the scales at around 2.1 tonnes. Xiaopeng has duplicated many of the functions of the Tesla app on its own phone-based application, and the angled door handles here could have come straight from a Model Y too. So let's take a look inside. Well, once you close the frameless door, it's the usual Chinese mid-sized SUV formula, which sees almost everything controlled by a huge central touchscreen. At least though, unlike Tesla, Xiaopeng doesn't make you view the driving instruments on this. These are accommodated in the letterbox-shaped 10.2-inch instrument display you view through this rather weird oval-shaped steering wheel. Thankfully, unlike its American rival, Xiaopeng also thinks you need stalks for things like gear selection and the activation of wipers and indicators. Not so good is the fact that the said stalks are ancient, plastically old model Mercedes cast-off items, which feel rather out of kilter with the cabin tech fest. We could do without the rather chintzy sound effects you get on entry too. You sit quite high, but rather hemmed in, bathtub style, between the high centre console and the even higher window line. But the seats are powered, heated, they're ventilated and decently comfortable on longer trips with four-way powered lumbar support, although they don't hold you in position particularly well at speed through corners. Light grey, or as in this case, dark cabin finishes are available, dominated by leatherette finishing, which doesn't feel particularly leather-like. Overall, you wouldn't call this interior, well, particularly premium or luxurious, but that never held Tesla back, and it's certainly true that all the fixtures and the fittings seem to be of decent quality. Door opening is controlled by a button down here rather than by a handle. We mentioned the instrument screen. As with most Chinese brand drive displays, it looks quite smart at startup until you realise on the move that the fonts are too small to easily read at a glance, particularly those along the bottom frame for battery percentage, driving range, ambient temperature and time. Trip data and tyre pressures they can show on the left and right of the screen, with the centre part of this screen usually occupied by what Xiaopeng calls a real-time SR assist graphic. Yet another Tesla-like touch depicting the proximity of traffic around you as you drive. Strangely, there's no head-up display available, even as an option. The big central screen is 15 inches in size, driven by the brand's advanced Xiao Smart OS operating system, and if you've driven a Model Y or a Model 3 in the past, you'll easily adapt to its complicated menu and sub-menu structures. Many of these activate from the car shortcut option you'll find along the bottom frame, alongside other shortcut buttons which connect you through to music and audio settings for the excellent 18-speaker 960-watt Xiao Opera sound system. Another lower shortcut button connects you directly into the very good panoramic camera system. You're going to need that because the low-slung bonnet there can make it really difficult to judge where the front of the car is, and rearward vision through the narrow tailgate window back there is pretty awful. The screen also has a lower button that connects you through to a screen full of icons. These include the normal tech features, an app store, a web browser, and apps for things like TuneIn Radio and Spotify, as well as more unique items like a mindfulness space option that gives you a range of meditation settings and a sleep space via which you can power fold the seats and prepare yourself mentally in the unlikely event that you want to spend the night in your G6. Another Tesla carryover is a Sentry mode, and that's to record vehicle break-ins. Unfortunately, this central screen also includes all the climate functions. When will Chinese brands realise that European customers rightly find it safer to have these separated out into physical buttons? You can at least operate climate functions using voice control. Pressing one of the left steering wheel buttons brings up a little spaceman-like robot called Xiaopeng in the bottom right corner of the central screen, asking if it can help you. Or you can tailor the left-hand steering wheel buttons to alter either temperature or fan speed, which is a welcome and unusual feature. As for cabin practicalities, well, the absence of a glove box is unwelcome, but you do get this big shallow area beneath the central console here to compensate, complete with both USB-A and USB-C ports, plus a 12-volt socket. On the upper side of that console are twin-cooled 50-watt wireless phone charging mats, ahead of rather small cup holders and a deep bin between the seats here. There are decent door bins too, and ticket clips on the facing edges of the sun visors. The front seats, incidentally, can be adjusted through nearly 180 degrees to lie almost flat and bed-like, making possible a so-called sleep space option, and that allows you to convert the cabin into single or dual bed layouts, although it's really rather difficult to imagine why you'd ever want to unless there was a particularly long queue at, say, the charging station. More useful is the iPrivate headrest audio system for the driver, which relays information like navigation directions. Okay, let's take a look in the back. You'd hope a bespoke platformed EV with a generous 2.89 metres of wheelbase length would be spacious back here. So let's take a look. Sure enough, it feels very roomy indeed. The airy feeling here is helped by this vast standard fit panoramic glass roof. Thanks to 820mm of leg space, 2 6-footers can be seated behind a couple of really lanky front seat occupants, and the rear seats can be adjusted in 12 positions with a maximum angle of 38.4 degrees. Despite the glassy, swept-back roofline, there's plenty of headspace too, up to 970 mils of it. And because there's no central tunnel, it'll be straightforward to accommodate a middle-seated adult if you needed to do that. Surprisingly though, there is no tri-zone climate system to provide separate temperature controls for rear seat occupants, but the tiny rear quarter-light windows here, they add to the airy ambience. There's an armrest with neat pop-out cup holders, and you do get seat back pockets, also overhead reading lights, twin USB-C ports and decently sized door bins. Let's finish with a look out back. Now, there's standard powered tailgate, which can be operated not only from the key, but also up and down from the central screen, rises to reveal practical space, which, although it's decently sized at 571 litres, virtually the same as a rival Ford Capri, is quite a lot smaller than the trunk of a Tesla Model Y. That's a competitor with the added advantage, also lacking here, of extra underbonnet front space. Xiaopeng provides this thick boot floor mat, and there's space beneath the floor for some of the charging leads. There's also a light both sides and a 12-volt socket on the right. Now, because the rear seat backs recline, it's possible to put them in a more upright position if you're really trying to cram things like suitcases in. You might struggle a bit with longer, narrow items though, like skis, because the G6 has neither a ski hatch or a convenient 40-20-40 rear seat back split. With everything flat though, up to 1,374 litres of space is freed up. From launch and at the time of filming in early summer 2025, Xiaopeng wanted from around £40,000 for this car in standard range form. You'll need around £5,000 more for the bigger battery long range version. Either way, there's just one fully kitted out level of trim. At the top of the range, the brand wants around £54,000 for the top all-wheel drive performance model. Now, as we filmed, there were 20 Xiaopeng dealers across the UK. In terms of the value proposition and rivals, this volume long-range version is price pitched directly at the £45,000 price starting point, common to equivalent large battery versions of key competitors like the Tesla Model Y and the Ford Capri, and maybe also two other segment choices that we've recently tested, the Cupra Tavascan and the BYD C-Line 7. If the Model Y is your point of comparison, as it obviously was Xiaopeng's, it's worth pointing out that the £45,000 price there gets you only a standard range Model Y. The long range version of that car costs around £49,000 as we filmed, £4,000 more than this bigger battery G6. If you want to widen your choice of options in the class, you'll find that this Xiaopeng costs a fraction above solid segment sellers like Volkswagen's ID.4, Kia's EV6, Hyundai's Ioniq 5, Skoda's Enyaq, Ford's Explorer, Toyota's BZ4X, the Polestar 2, the Volvo EX40 and the Mercedes CLA 250 Plus. You need a bit more than Xiaopeng is asking here if you want an equivalent version of the sector's strongest seller though, the Audi Q4 e-tron. At first glance, it might look as if class contenders like the Tesla Model 3, the Nissan Ariya, the Vauxhall Grandland Electric, and also the Renault Scenic E-Tech Electric might save you a few £1,000s over this G6. But once you factor in Xiaopeng's generous equipment levels and you spec those cars up to match this one, then you're very likely to find out that the price difference isn't actually as great as you might have originally thought. But there is slightly better value to be had with other emerging brand contenders like the Leapmotor C10, the KGM Taurus EVX, the Skywell BE11 and the JQ7. If you want something slightly more premium, of course that means it'll be slightly more expensive too. Then there's BMW's i4, there's Mercedes EQA and EQB, the Genesis GV60 and the Lexus UX300E and RZ. If, having considered all those options, you're still interested in this G6, then it might well be because of Xiaopeng's generous equipment levels. Across the range, you can expect to find 20-inch wheels, a panoramic glass roof, a powered tailgate too, and powered folding mirrors. Plus there's a smart park setup which will automatically steer you into spaces, and a sentinel system which is there to record illegal entry into the car. Most rivals in this segment charge you more for a heat pump. This is the kind of thing which will preserve EV range in really cold winter months, but Xiaopeng includes a very advanced XHP 3.0 heat pump as standard equipment. There are 4 drive modes, there are 4 brake regeneration settings, there are 3 drive sounds and hill descent control, plus an acoustic vehicle alerting system which on both screens shows you the proximity of surrounding traffic. That is very Tesla, as is the availability of a phone-activated application, the Xiaopeng app, that allows you to access many key drive functions like smart park, vehicle preconditioning, the sentinel mode, and also a remote key from your handset. Inside there's a choice of 2 interior colour schemes. This test car's dark but practical black, and the lighter but rather less practical grey. Cabin kit includes 8-way power adjustable heated leatherette upholstered seats which are ventilated and have 4-way lumbar support. There's also a 10.2-inch digital dashboard instrument screen, a heated steering wheel, heated rear seats, 4 USB ports and 2 50-watt induction charging points for smartphones. And Xiaopeng also provides a vehicle to load charging points so you can power up external devices like laptops and lights from the car's drive battery. What about media connectivity? Well, the big 15-inch central monitor uses the brand's Xiaomart OS operating system. It features voice control and over-the-air updates and gives you access to a wide range of music, video, entertainment and social media apps. Plus there's smart navigation. And you don't have to pay more for an audio system upgrade either. Standard spec includes a thumping 960-watt Xiao Opera sound system with 18 speakers. What else? Well, unless you choose the only standard paintwork colour, which is Arctic White, you're going to have to pay Xiaopeng more for your choice of colour. Select from 4 shades: graphite grey, midnight black, fiery orange, or this silver frost finish. As for options, well, the only key one is a tow bar. This one is electronically deployable, which Xiaopeng has had to make available for the European market. Apparently, tow bars are not popular in China. What about safety? Well, you get 7 airbags, tyre pressure monitoring, intelligent high beam and driver drowsiness warning with a driver status monitor. Plus, Xiaopeng includes an extremely wide range of so-called Xiao Pilot semi-autonomous drive and drive assist functions. This is part of a safety portfolio that earned the car a top 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating. That included a strong 88% score for adult occupant protection, with an 85% score for child occupant protection and 81% for vulnerable road user protection. As for a camera safety kit, well, you'd expect forward collision warning, autonomous braking, traffic sign recognition, the inevitable intelligent speed limit assist, and perhaps also lane departure assist with a lane support system and blind spot detection. There is also forward distance monitoring, door opening warning, and to prevent parking prangs, there's reverse collision prevention and also an obstacle avoidance assist during startup system. Other fitted features starting to become common in this segment include rear collision warning, emergency lane keeping, rear cross traffic alert, lane centering and auto lane change. It is all very reassuring. We gave you the EV mileage figures in our driving section. 270 miles for the LFP 66 kilowatt hour battery of the standard range version and 354 miles for the NCM 87.5 kilowatt hour battery of the long range model. Now that same 87.5 kilowatt hour battery in the all-wheel drive performance variant takes the car 340 miles. We're not sure how realistic those figures are going to be in real world motoring though. This car's trip computer indicated 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour during our time with this long range model. That translates to a driving range of no more than around 245 miles. So even if you were going to drive this car a lot less enthusiastically than we have on this test, we think you might struggle to see even 300 miles. Obviously, a lot is going to depend on how often you leave this car in its most frugal eco drive mode and select the fiercest X-pedal brake regeneration setting. On the plus side, because unlike many of its rivals, Xiaopeng includes a heat pump as standard, you should actually be able to maintain some reasonable drive efficiency during colder months though. And you can also monitor that drive efficiency via a graphical display in the central screen's vehicle menu that shows energy consumption in kilowatt hours per 100 miles over the last 2.5 miles, 20 miles, 100 miles or since start. What about battery replenishment? Well, there's an advanced 800 volt charging infrastructure, something that only Hyundai, Kia, Genesis and Audi can currently match in this segment. Other brands like Tesla are still stuck with that old tech 400 volt system. The 800 volt charging setup means that the car can use the latest ultra rapid chargers, which are springing up all around Europe. And even more importantly, it means that the G6 can DC charge at up to 280 kilowatts, and that makes it one of the fastest charging EVs in the class. To be specific, this Xiaopeng can DC charge from 10 to 80% in under 20 minutes. All that's great, but an ex-Tesla owner might miss the lack of access to the American brand's really wonderful supercharger network. Things aren't so impressive when it comes to AC charging from home. Domestic three-phase charging with this G6 is limited to just 11 kilowatts rather than the faster 22 kilowatt speed that some competitors do offer. And if you only have a single phase 7.4 kilowatt wall box, as many people do, you might really struggle to get a full charge into this car even overnight if you leave it empty at the end of the previous day. The charge time figures really illustrate this point. With a standard range version, a full 7.4 kilowatt wall box charge needs 10 hours 30 minutes. It'd be 7 hours 30 minutes if you can use the three-phase 11 kilowatt supply. With this long range model, a full 7.4 kilowatt wall box charge, that would need 14 hours or 9 hours 30 minutes if you can use one of those three-phase 11 kilowatt supplies. As with almost any EV these days, if you have to plug this car into a domestic wall socket, well, you'll need a calendar rather than a clock to time its charging. In that scenario, say when you're traveling outside of the EV public charge network or when you're staying with a friend, well, you need at least 33 hours 45 minutes for a full charge for the standard range version, or 44 hours and 45 minutes for this long range version. The central screen has a charging and discharging section which allows you to preset charging limits, preheat the battery for a quicker DC charging, and preset charging times for cheaper off-peak AC charging. What else? Well, maintenance should be straightforward thanks to the brand's network of international motors brand dealerships, most of them Subaru and Isuzu franchises. Service intervals are every year or 12,500 miles, whichever comes around first, and there's a vehicle health menu in the central screen. Insurance groupings, they're pitched at 43 for the standard range version or 44 for this long range version. You would want peace of mind from an unknown brand. Xiaopeng provides that. There's a 5-year warranty, although it is capped at 75,000 miles, and you have the usual EV 8-year 100,000 mile warranty for the battery. There's also a 12-year unlimited mileage bodywork guarantee. Xiaopeng wants to be what it calls the best smart pure electric brand. Whatever that might mean, there's real substance here, as you'd expect from a car made by a company with a research and development department accounting for over 40% of its 15,000 strong workforce. If you've ever wondered why cars in the Tesla Model Y segment can't charge faster, be better equipped, or be more affordable, then the Xpeng G6 might be for you. Unlike that Tesla, it won't frustrate you with the lack of conventional drive controls or an instrument cluster. There's no mandatory heavy regen braking, and there are no expensive options to add either. True, you might want more involving drive dynamics, easier to use screen functions, or less derivative styling, but if you can live with all those things, there's really a great deal to like here. Some Chinese car makers are really going to stand the test of time in our market, and if it keeps producing cars like this G6, Xiaopeng will be one of them.